Hey, this is Muse, and welcome to your crash course in Canva. Canva is a browser-based program that allows you to create graphics, and I use it most often for shareable graphics, not only for the challenges that I run with Joe, but also in my real life. We have phased out a lot of the Adobe programs in favor of Canva because it is simply so easy to use, because you can create a template as we have done and share it with other people so that things are consistent. You are not under any obligation to use any of our suggestions. These are just to get you started. You can feel free to upload your own art to change all of the typefaces. You do not have to use this size. This is the actually a Twitter shareable size, which we always start larger and scale down. But you can, if you'd rather make a large aesthetic photo set, please do. You do not have to start with this. This is just an example so you can play with it. Canva projects exist in pages, and to edit a page, simply click on it. Your active page will be indicated by this dotted line around the edge. This is most similar to Adobe InDesign if you have ever worked with it, in that this program has very limited image editing capabilities. It has image editing capabilities pretty much on par with Instagram, but a little bit less, in that you can apply some filters to pictures. Please don't apply filters to the DCBB logo. But if we had an actual photograph up here, you could certainly do that. So you can turn on silly things that do things like vignette and change the saturation and make things look very dramatic. Everything exists in its own layer, just like in InDesign and just like in Photoshop. Little bit of a difference, however, between Photoshop and Canva is that while in Photoshop and in InDesign, you can change the typeface, the size, and even the case of this word while leaving this one alone, even though they share a text box, you cannot do that here. So if you want thick and title to be two different typefaces but sit on the same line, they will need to be in two separate text boxes. To create a new one, you can simply come over to the text menu. They have a lot of pre-made stuff, so if you like one of these, you can stick this in your project and just change it. But otherwise, click any one of these. It doesn't matter which one, because once it's on the project, you can alter it. You can move it around. You can change the typeface. Let's say we want this also to be in League Spartan. They have a lot of wonderful preloaded stuff. If you have a paid account, you can upload your own typefaces. Otherwise, you are limited to what they have, but their selection is pretty good. And there are a lot of typefaces that are fairly similar to some pretty common commercial fonts. Just like in the Adobe programs, when you drag items around, you will notice, there you go, the automatic grid lines come up to tell you where this item is in relation to the page and also the items around it. So it will help you to place things and to make sure that everything is centered or centered relative to the other items on the page. Let's say you decided, I don't like that at all, I don't want that. Simply select that text box and click the delete key on your keyboard will take it away. You're certainly welcome to do solid color backgrounds. You don't have to do anything elaborate. Canva allows you to change the background color and also the texture. So if you decide you would prefer this to be the DCBB, you won't have these color options. These are on my document. These are the DCBB brand colors. You can easily shift that. Any kind of text that you had on the page will actually automatically change color to have enough contrast. But images, you'll notice, will not. So that's why that changed. You might not like that feature, but I like that. It saves me some time. You also have the option to apply one of these interesting background textures. So let's say that you really enjoy these stripes, but you would prefer, because we're talking about Dean and Cass, that maybe we have something in the blue family. And you can, that's really, goodness, what a blue. Let's say we actually want to come into, a little bit grayer blue. There we go. You can come in here and specify a color. If you know the hex code for the color you want to work with, you can throw that in here. And you can create backgrounds to your heart's content. And they have so many different things that you can play with. Actually, this one is the one we use on a lot of the DCBB stuff. So there's lots of stuff you can play with. Most of these are free, but they do have some paid stuff. So once you start to get a little bit further down, but let's say that you actually want this interesting marble texture. There you go. And you're good to go. But in the event that you want to work with a photo background, Canva's grid system is wonderful for this. You can actually, they have a lot of pre-made layouts that you can play around with, so feel free. This is an image grid, and you'll see they have a grid segment here where we can open and see all of them. We are working with this grid. This is a single image, and in this case, the grid is filling the entire page. But they have all kinds of grids. So if you want to make one of those aesthetic sets and you don't like having to create guides in Photoshop, or you have trouble spacing things evenly, these are phenomenal. And you can drop these into projects and you can play around with them. And each of these little rectangles holds a different photograph. So it's really nice. Everything is tidy, and you can drop and drag. So it's a big time saver. So let's say this is the banner that we want. We've gotten the type where we want it, and we decided we certainly want to use white lettering, but we scrapped our Christmas fic. It just didn't work out. We want this water background instead. Select your page to make sure that the page is selected and that the layer we want to work with is selected. In this case, it's this background grid. And when you do have overlapping layers, this arrange menu will be available, and you can move things forward and back. Unlike Photoshop and unlike InDesign, you do not have a layer palette. So you have to remember that you have that background layer. So in the event that I brought that forward, I can accidentally cover up some important items. I might forget that's back there. But as long as it's at the back and back is grayed out, you know that that is the lowest of the layers. So simply then come over to your upload section. I've already uploaded a ton of photos. These are from all kinds of challenges that we've run, and also just some graphics that I use for my own accounts. Drag it on, and you will see that here we go. This is definitely the one we want to use, but we don't like where the wave falls behind the type, or maybe you do, but I want to move this up. To adjust where the image's placement and its cropping, simply double click on that background layer, and you will be shown the full image. You can see where it's cropping here on the image. Unfortunately, it does not show you the other layers, so you have to do it by memory. But I remember we want to move up just a touch. I'm going to keep this one bubble here and click the check mark, and there we go. And I like that, right? That's beautiful. So let's now go into, I'm going to show you the filters. Again, this is very similar to Instagram. Especially in that they can be a little much. The Epic filter is actually already applied to this one, but there's a lot of, this reminds me of Raise, which was like my first favorite fade filter. It's isn't that great? Doesn't that feel like Instagram 2 years ago? I love it. So let's say that this is what we want, right? We're writing, this is our surfing AU, and so this is perfect. This is exactly the graphic that we want, and we are ready to download it. When you have your project done, note the number to the right. In the event that you only have a single page, it's not necessary. But if you've made multiple, if you're working on the starter template, note the number to the right and simply come up to the download menu. I would recommend leaving it in PNG format. This is a lossless image type. It doesn't really matter with a JPEG background, but it's good practice for social media graphics to work with PNG when you can. And this was number 5. Especially if you have a solid color background. If you are working with a solid color image, absolutely use this. JPEG is fine for pictures, but again, PNG. If we had a paid account, we could do a transparent background. You cannot with a free Canva account. It's one of the limitations. So that's why that's grayed out. So image number 5 is the one we want, PNG. Simply click download. Canva's going to take a moment to save the design and download it to your hard drive. You're always shown a lovely inspirational quote. And within a few moments, my computer is old and I have slow internet today, so I apologize. It's taking a bit longer than normal. The graphic has downloaded to the computer. And that's all there is to using Canva. And you're certainly not limited to creating banners for fic challenges. If you have never explored this program, it is a great alternative to Photoshop if you regularly make shareable graphics for Instagram, for Facebook, for Twitter. If you have any questions, if you run into any problems using this template, or if you have any questions about creating your shareable graphic for the DCBB promos, please email us at deancastbigbangmod@gmail.com. And you can also tweet us at DeanCastBigBang if it's a general question that you don't mind having answered in public.